other thing on Little Women. When there would be lunch break, you were only 11, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know that occasionally, like other, older guys and cool-looking guys would come and visit for lunch. Elizabeth had her
Yeah.
beaux, and June and Janet. Um, what was that like for you? Did you just kind of have to sit like the little girl and watch all of that, or would they welcome you into that?
No, they were very sweet to me, but I was still the outsider in that department.
A plan.
Oh, all right.
Because I keep thinking of you at 11, and I know Janet told me that one day Dean and Jerry came over to the Little Woman set, and they were like, everybody in the pool, and she said, we were in these dresses, we were trying to be the Little Women. Mr. Mayor did not like it because he wanted us to be the nice little women. He didn't want that disrupted. But can you recount something?
Well, I think on that I was a little bit of the outsider. As I say, I think all the girls had a crush on Peter Lawford, and I sort of had a crush too, but nobody paid any attention to me when it came to Peter Lawford, and didn't realize I had a little crush too. And so I'd get a little bit jealous there, and then a little jealous that Elizabeth wouldn't play with me with her chipmunks and things. So she was just getting out of the chipmunk stage, which I used to enjoy, seeing her little squirrels that she used to have on her shoulder and play with them and everything. But by the time she was in Little Women, she was just getting to another stage. So I expected her to sit around the set and play with the chipmunks all day, and she was more interested in gazing behind the sets, looking at Peter Lawford. So I think, why is she looking at Peter Lawford, not playing with the chipmunks and me? So that I'd get a little bit jealous there. And then I'd have to go to school, and she was just had her last school day with the school teacher on Little Women, and I still had to go into the schoolroom between takes, so I missed all the fun.
Did they try to keep you a baby long? Did they try to discourage you from taking teenage kind of romantic things? Was it hard for you to make that change?
Well, when I ended in MGM, I was just going into the teenage. So my teenage was mainly in television, where they did allow me to grow up in parts and do lots of different roles. I played with Henry Silva, where I was a girl who was attacked. Michael Landon was my boyfriend in it, and he attacks me as I'm coming back from school. So that was a very different part. Then another part where I was an Italian war bride that killed all the soldiers. So I had a variety of roles in television. And then one I did with Jack Lemmon, where he was my husband and he was poisoning all the wives, sort of like a Bluebeard, and they hang him in the end with Gladys Cooper. So I had a really variety of roles in the television and also stage. So when the MGM days ended, I was still not quite into the teenage where they would have held me back.
Because it was written in the MGM book that you wanted some time off, that you were tired of the whole thing.
No, it wasn't that. It was just that the contracts were ending. There was a new era. The studio was not going to be MGM anymore. And that's that really happened when I was about 15, 16. So it was a whole new show business, a whole new world starting
and do you think
at
you
that
didn't
time.
come back into the movies because so many people out here saw you as Margaret O'Brien?
No, I just think television was so much in at the time. I just
But
did
you
so
didn't
much
return
television.
To the movies, and I'm just wondering whether you think there was a bias on the part of the studio.
No, it was just the way the career went. I just did a lot of stage, and again, there's been several movie offers now, but I think today it's just a whole different thing. You do so many different things. You're not just in movies today. You do product. You do television specials.
I kind of thought that your mother may have said, hey, she's been working long enough. Let's give her a break and let her date.
No, I always worked.
Always.
Always
That's interesting.
worked, yeah.
And so it was not hard.
I
for
did a
you-
lot of movies in Spain and Europe because I'm Spanish.
But it wasn't
So
hard
I
for you
never
to go ahead
stopped.
and like change from being. I mean, in other words, as you went through these tremendous changes as from a teenager into a young woman, it went very easily.
No,
for
it
you?
was very easy for me to do it acting wise. It was more difficult personal wise. It took me longer because I had not dated a lot. And I had not gone to an actual school with a lot of other kids. So to get used to other kids and teenage kids, that was harder for me personally, but acting wise, it was easy.
Right.
So,
Did it affect your life? Do you think?
no, no.
But in terms of your choices and things, did it?
No, no, because I would have made the same choices anyway. I'm very sure of what I want.
Affect? You kind of think, well, maybe life was just depicted in a certain fantasy, wonderful way
No,
that you didn't expect it to be any other way. You know?
no. But I'll mention that.
You're right.
We're rolling,
Okay.
yeah.
I think what's interesting is that I was saying that I'm a very realistic person. But when I was at the studio, it was wonderful to live that fantasy and walk through those doors and you could be the people that you weren't actually yourself, like the little girl in Meet Me in St. Louis, that I was not. Some of the portrayals I did on television, that I would no more be that person than the man in the moon. But when I left, I was a realistic person. I think the only thing that was maybe difficult that you had to learn as a teenager is to handle your finances and do the business end, because I basically am not a person who loves business, be a businesswoman. But I am realistic, and I had to learn that. And I do live in the real world.
I just want to ask you one other thing. There's a lot that's said about the abuse of women, the abuse of actresses, the classics, the Marilyn Monroe stories and so forth. Do you think there are certain actresses who, like Anita said, one actress said to her, what do I have to do to be in a movie? I'll do anything. And Anita said, my God, please don't even suggest such a thing. Do you think that comes from inside, or
I don't
maybe
think
you're-
that Hollywood does that.
Oh, go-
I
okay.
think that some of the women came from very difficult homes. And I think that is what started going sometimes with the wrong people. Judy had a very difficult family. I think that goes back to the family. That does not come from Hollywood, because you can always say no. And still, Esther said no many times. Janet said no. So you don't have to be abused. And you don't have to be in pictures to be abused. You can be women today are out there that are being abused every day by their husbands or their... women have to speak up, and you have to be a strong woman and say, no, I don't want to do that. So it doesn't come from Hollywood. It comes from your own inner self and your own background. And that's the way I feel about it anyway.
Okay.
We're ready, go ahead.
Okay.
And talking about women being strong, I'd always been protected. And of course, MGM Studios always protected me. But when I did go out for some parts as a teenager, I think I was 17, I did meet with the director. And it was a part I really wanted to. And I went into the casting office, and all of a sudden the secretary left, and everybody left, and he locked the door. And I thought, what is happening? Because I was really very innocent at that time. I had not dated a lot or anything. And he says, we're going to try this kissing scene now. Well, I knew something wasn't right. And I just pretended that I was so taken back and so innocent about the whole thing. In the end, he felt really bad. And he just opened the door and let me out. But then I went for another interview later as I was older, I think about 25. And it was the same director, and he tried the same thing. And I said, now, you know what happened the time before. And he said, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. So you can get out of it. I'm always able to get out of things if you really want to. And he just felt bad then. But that was the only time that ever happened to me. But I got out of it in a very quiet way. I didn't run and yell and scream and run to the door. I just said, no, I just don't do that, and I don't think very much of you. You know, what type of person are you? And he felt so embarrassed that he just said, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, I didn't get the part though. So, but that was fine with me.
Fabulous.